Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, January the 8th. Our recent very active weather pattern looks like it will continue through this week and even into next week. We have two big storm systems to deal with over the next several days. Both of these will become powerhouses and both will impact wide sections of the country. The first one hits the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. Later tomorrow, into tomorrow night, into the day on Wednesday. It will produce some torrential rainfall that raises the chances for significant flooding. It will also have some very strong, potentially damaging winds that raises the chance for power outages in the Mid-Atlantic region, in the Northeast U.S. Another storm system looks like it'll become a powerhouse, let's say later Friday into the day on Saturday. It could become a blizzard for portions of the Midwest, probably more heavy rain for the Mid-Atlantic region and coastal New England as well. That storm system ushers in some colder air for the eastern part of the nation. That could set the stage for a better chance for snow along the eastern seaboard during the early or middle part of next week. Let's start off with this kind of temperature pattern that is evolving over the next several days. We're looking here at the ensemble run of the GFS from last night at 0Z. And at first here, we'll look at 5-day increments. These are mean 850 millibar temperature anomalies averaged out over a rolling 5-day period. Then we'll take a look at the individual frames for the 850 millibar temperature anomalies. First of all, we've talked about some intense cold making its way into North America, onto the North America side of the North Pole. There certainly has been some extreme cold on the other side of the pole. First started in China and North and South Korea, and over the last week or so, Scandinavian countries of Sweden, Norway, and Denmark have had some extreme cold. Now it looks like it's shaping up over, certainly over the western part of Canada, all the way from British Columbia to Saskatchewan over the next several days. Again, this is a 5-day average of 850 millibar temperature anomalies using that 0Z run of the ensemble version of the GFS. Now, let's just push forward here over the next several days here. Let me get this straightened out here. Here is the next time period, and one thing we'll notice is that the colder air starts to slowly edge to the south and east. It will not flood the eastern states on the backside of this initial storm system, but rather looks like it'll wait till the Friday-Saturday storm system to reach all the way into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast U.S. This is now going all the way out to January 12th to the 17th, the middle part of the month. And again, it slowly edges south and east, first starting over western Canada and then dropping into the the northwestern part of the U.S., the north central part of the U.S., and slowly working its way to the south and east. We mentioned last week, once you start getting this Arctic air to move to the south and to the east, it's kind of hard to slow down. It's very, very dense air. Cold, dry air is the densest of all the air masses, and it's making a move to the south and east. Again, it doesn't flood the eastern zone until after the Friday-Saturday storm system. But once it arrives, it tends to stick around, and that could set the stage for certainly an increased chance for snow, let's say in the I-95 corridor region next week, early to middle part of next week. No guarantees, but it certainly raises the chances for snow in the eastern states. And here we go all the way out days 8 to 12, and you can still see at this particular time, once that cold air works its way into the east, it tends to stick around. This is going all the way out now to days 10 to 14, January 17th to the 22nd. A lot of cold air across the northern states. Now, those were 5-day rolling means of the 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Now we'll look at the individual forecast map using the operational or deterministic run of the GFS from 0Z. Now, let's push forward. And again, we're setting things up. This is now into the middle part of this week, and here comes that way colder than normal air setting up over the western part of Canada here over the midweek time frame, and it is some intense cold. These kind of temperatures here, if you look at the scale, is some 25 degrees below normal. And when you're talking about the middle part of January, that is some very, very cold air, well below zero. Again, extending all the way from British Columbia to Saskatchewan in Canada, and then working its way into the north central, into the northwest U.S. Still near normal, or maybe a little bit above normal across the eastern seaboard here into the day on Thursday, and it actually turns warmer than normal in the eastern states ahead of that next system at the end of the week. But look at this intense cold here over southwestern Canada, working its way into places like Montana and the Dakotas. And again, that Friday, Saturday storm system will be the catalyst to bring some of that cold air into the eastern states, sort of changing the pattern here and potentially setting the stage for a better chance for snow in the eastern U.S. I'm talking about along the I-95 corridor region and the East Coast, maybe early to middle part of next week. This is now into the second half of the upcoming weekend. On the backside of that second storm system we'll be dealing with this week, that Friday, Saturday storm system in this part of the nation, that colder air starts to move in. And again, once it moves in, it tends to stick around. We have kind of reinforcing cold air. Here we are all the way now into the middle part of next week with still some colder than normal air sitting kind of in a source region up across southwestern Canada. Now let's take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern, because again we have two major storm systems to deal with over the next several days. One later tomorrow into the day on Wednesday across the Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic region, and another one Friday into Saturday. That could certainly become a monster for the Midwest, a blizzard for many of the Midwestern states later Friday night into the day on Saturday. Here is an upper level low, a pretty vigorous looking upper level low, and that is associated with this initial storm system later tomorrow into tomorrow night into the day on Wednesday. Here we go into midweek, and here is that upper level system associated with this first storm system Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. We'll get into more of the details over the next few minutes. And then we start moving to the late week. Look at this. We have kind of a trifecta of upper level lows here later on this week out across the western part of the nation. And this eventually consolidates into a very vigorous upper level feature here by the middle, around the middle part of the nation by the end of the work week. And this also tends to slide up to the north and west of the I-95 corridor region. A potential blizzard for places like Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, maybe Indiana. Here later Friday night into the day on Saturday. Some tremendous winds associated with that second system this week. At the end of the week, early part of the weekend. And it is that system. And by the way, look at how deep the height anomalies are in terms of comparison to normal. This is, you don't often see this color here. This is way off the scale. In fact, let me show you the scale here, all the way down at the bottom of the scale here. This is very impressive indeed for the departures from normal for the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern here. Now we'll go out a little farther in time, and again that passes on through the eastern states and ushers in some cold air. Maybe Sunday, Monday time frame. It could be setting the stage for yet another storm system to monitor that could impact the eastern states right here in the early or middle part of next week. And again, this time there'll be more cold air around across the eastern states ahead of this potential system. Again, that's early to middle part of next week. Nothing is set in stone yet for that particular system. Now, before we take a look at the surface forecast maps using the 0Z run of the GFS, I wanted to show the low-level jet associated with not only this first storm later tomorrow into Wednesday for the northeastern part of the nation, but that second storm system Friday, Saturday. In a nutshell, very, very strong low-level jet, enhancing the chance for potential damaging wind gusts with both of these systems across a large part of the nation. That, of course, in turn suggests power outages are on the table. This is as we begin the day here on Monday and now going into the day on Tuesday. Just a very, very scary looking and impressive lower level jet streak here. This is at the 850 millibar level, a few thousand feet off the ground level here. And here we go into tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and this is the time period for those potential damaging wind gusts in the Mid-Atlantic, in the Northeast U.S., especially along coastal section, let's say from New Jersey up across Long Island, eventually New England coastline. A very high probability of some 60 mile per hour wind gusts along coastal sections. Certainly, given the well saturated grounds, that often results in weakened root systems for some trees. So it's kind of certainly a red flag here with the recent heavy rainfall and some snow cover too, by the way, in interior sections here. We could be setting up for some power outages with downed trees, certainly downed limbs over the next 48 hours, beginning tomorrow and lasting through much of the day on Wednesday. Let's move forward here, and that first system passes on by, and then we'll just kind of quickly get into the development of that second system. Here we go. By Friday morning, another vigorous upper level low, another system with very strong low-level jet streak here at the 850 millibar level. It goes all the way into the eastern states come Friday night into the day on Saturday. And finally, here we go now by Sunday. That moves on away. Colder air kind of floods the zone in the eastern states Sunday going into Monday. Now let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps. Again, we're using the conventional version, the deterministic version of the GFS from 0Z last night. Calm today in the Mid-Atlantic, in the Northeast U.S. Only moderately chilly conditions out there. Now let's move forward, and here we go with the development of this storm system, the intensification of low pressure over the Midwest as of early Tuesday morning. And take a look at these isobars here between this strong high pressure system over southeastern Canada and the intensifying low over the Midwest. A lot of lines here, a strong pressure gradient. The difference in pressure between this high to the northeast and this low to the southwest is going to become quite strong, and in turn the winds will become very, very strong and potentially damaging wind gusts. On the front side of the storm, the winds will be east to southeast in the I-95 corridor region, and again they could be damaging past 50 miles per hour or so, past 60 miles per hour or so along coastal sections. And here comes the depiction of the heavy rainfall, thunderstorms possible as well. Tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night, look for heavy rain. DC, Philadelphia, New York City, certainly flooding is a big concern here. The grounds have been soaked. We've had multiple heavy rain events over the past month or so in this part of the nation. Those areas that receive some significant snowfall from the weekend storm, that will not help the situation. Places like east central Pennsylvania, for example, up across northeastern PA into the Hudson Valley region of New York, still will have snow cover by the time the rain begins on Tuesday afternoon, and that can only exacerbate the situation because some of that snow will melt given the increase in temperatures. So not a good setup here. And again, look at this isobar pattern, this pressure gradient pattern, suggesting very, very strong winds initially on the front side of the storm system out of the east to southeast across the eastern seaboard. And by the way, significant accumulating snow across the Midwest into the southeastern part of Canada with this storm system, the initial storm system this week. And that heavy rainfall continues into tomorrow night along the East Coast. And then on the day Wednesday, very strong winds on the backside. There'll be more of a west to southwest direction on Wednesday. So that raises the chance for power outages really to continue into the day on Wednesday. Again, on the front side, strong east to southeast winds. And then on the backside of the system, strong west to maybe southwest winds during the day on Wednesday. And then we all gear up for another kind of a repeat performance. Here we go. By the time we get into Friday, into Saturday, and this system can be just a downright blizzard for much of the Midwest. Again, we're talking Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. And again, look at this pressure gradient pattern. Very, very tight pressure gradient pattern here. Intense winds, all out blizzard for parts of the Midwest here with this system. Again, too warm in the east, a lot of strong winds and heavy rain out ahead of it in the eastern U.S. later Friday night time frame, and this will slowly move to the north and east, and just tremendous winds here across the Great Lakes region. It'll be no doubt blizzard-like conditions associated with this system late Friday night into the day on Saturday. These powerful winds will continue well into the weekend across the Great Lakes, and certainly those downwind areas, western New York, northwestern Pennsylvania, lake effect snows will be a big feature as well. And again, screaming winds out of the west to northwest on the backside of this second powerful system this week. Now we're talking late Saturday night time frame. Again, it is this system that then ushers in very chilly air, very cold air for the Mid-Atlantic region, for the northeastern U.S. And then we'll have to turn our attention to a potential third system in a series of systems here early to middle part of next week. This is the Monday afternoon, and finally into the day on Tuesday. There could be a storm system right here along the eastern seaboard with some cold air in place ahead of it. Way too early to talk about the details of that, but in the meantime here we have two powerful storm systems to deal with over the next couple of days, and then at the end of the week into the weekend, impacting a wide part of the nation from the Midwest to Great Lakes to the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. So a lot going on this week, and it looks like into next week as well. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.